I'm always looking forward to what's coming next and how I can continue to grow because, getting complacent in your role can lead to maybe not enjoying it as much or not, seeing that growth path. So I just love to see others succeed. And I know that if I want to succeed, I need my team behind me to also be successful.
Hi, it's Shea Murtaugh. Welcome to the HMDL podcast, where we are going to discuss all the tools, tips, and firsthand experience on how to grow yourself professionally and personally. I'm Shea Murtaugh, the founder and president of Hoffmann Murtaugh, and I'm very excited today to introduce Katie Mull here today to join us, who is our Director of Media Activation and Analytics. Welcome, Katie, to the podcast.
Hi, Shea. Thanks for having me.
So let me just talk a little bit about Katie. Katie joined Hoffmann Murtaugh over 2 years ago as the Associate Director of Digital Media and Analytics. And since then, she has been promoted to the Director of Media Activation and Analytics. And in this role, she continues to lead the team's digital strategy and analytics across all clients. Now, that's just one of the things she does, but she wears many hats here. And we're very excited about her. And prior to coming to Hoffmann Murtaugh, she worked at Dick's Sporting Goods, where she managed a team of digital experts focused on creating and executing top performing media plans. Katie also started her career at a Pittsburgh advertising agency where she was the digital media manager for B2B and education clients. And she also has 3 daughters, Cameron, Madison, and Brayland, and a husband named Mike, who is a great partner to her. So, Katie, how you doing? Why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe a little bit about your background and how you got here.
Yeah, thanks, Shea. As you mentioned, close to 3 years now. I think October and beginning of October is when I'll hit my 3-year mark. So it's been a great 3 years. I've loved really watching this company grow. We've seen so much growth over the last 3 years. And I think that just having, really the right people in the places that they belong on the team has been extremely helpful. But just to add on to my background a little bit there, I think one of the reasons why I'm able to kind of bring some great insights and recommendations to our clients is because I have both that client and the digital agency experience as well. So I think that that's been very helpful for me and for our clients to be able to put myself in their shoes as well as in our own shoes, because I know what it's like to work at an agency, but I also know what it's like to be on the client side. So that's been really great to help me grow in my career and to really be able to help our clients achieve as much success as possible.
Now, a lot of our listeners could be right out of college. And, I see that you graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration and finance. And then you went into the education route, which I think is also a great thing to have here because you can train those below you. But I don't understand tell us how you got into media with that background.
Yeah, this is a question I get asked a lot, actually, because when people look at my resume or my experience, they're like, wait, this has nothing to do with what you're in right now. So I did start college thinking I wanted to be an accountant. A couple classes in, though, I realized that finance and numbers was more my passion, and the accounting really, even though it seems like that's going to be all about numbers, some of the classes that I was taking had nothing to do with numbers. And it was very quickly realized that's not really where I wanted to be. And I really love analyzing data and numbers. So I did switch over to finance, and that really was more what I was looking for. But after a few years of working, I also realized I had a strong passion for teaching and educating as well. And I decided to get my degree in education. And in Western Pennsylvania specifically, though, the education feels really tough. So there's just so many teachers. We have so many good teaching colleges in Western PA that it really, the market itself was just oversaturated. And the growth opportunities within education are just not there either. So I decided that I wanted to go back into the business world and find a job there instead. And I actually, somebody I used to work with had reached out to me, and she said, I'm working at an agency now. Do you have any interest? So I decided to take a risk, and I jumped into marketing instead. And it really was focused on performance marketing and analyzing those numbers and putting together insights and recommendations for our clients. But at the same time, I was able to utilize my education degree because I was looking at educating clients, but then also educating employees underneath me and helping them grow in their careers as well.
Wow, I'm glad we're doing this interview because I never made all those connections together for you. And now I know why you're such a superstar here. So very lucky to have you. So tell me, you've been here now for 3 years. How has your role changed? Because, I had mentioned at the beginning that you started out as the associate director. So now you're director, you're the director, you're the top of that full I don't know what you're gonna call it, funnel within the agency or the column, maybe. You're at the top of that. So running all of activation and analytics. Tell me how your role has changed since you got here.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, when I first started, I was mainly focused on digital strategy and reporting. So that's really where my strong suits were. Coming from Dick's Sporting Goods, I was manager of performance marketing, where that's all we focused on. We focused really on the bottom funnel. We focused on driving results. So that was really my strong suit when I came in, and it's still, obviously a strong area for me. But now as the director of activation, I focus on all forms of media and performance of those campaigns. But the great part is that I have a wonderful team backing me up too, which really allows me to focus on making sure we have a strong team and continuing to grow that team and aligning with all the success that we're continuing to see as an organization. So taking my knowledge, passing it down to others, and really growing my knowledge in other areas and being able to see the company succeed overall and achieve the great growth that we're continuing to see.
Yeah, and I know you're going to have nothing to say about your least favorite part of the job, but tell me about your favorite and least favorite part of your job here, if there's any.
Yeah, my favorite part has always been, and I get this question asked to me a lot when I'm interviewing people, but my favorite part is always the people we work with. I've never worked for a company before where everyone has been just so dedicated to their jobs and the company's overall success. When you're working for a small company, the squeaky wheel stands out much more than if you're at a big corporate agency or a big corporate company. So we really don't have any squeaky wheels. We have that great team. We worked really hard to get ourselves into a really good spot to be able to we know our roles, we know what our strong suits are, we know where our strengths are. So my favorite part's always going to be the people I work with and just being able to watch everybody kind of grow. But I would say from the least favorite part is that growth. It really is. It's amazing to have the kind of growth that we have, but we are always trying to, get more people on board. And that does take a toll on a lot of people to get that growth. But I think just making sure everybody realizes that at the end, you're growing people, you're mentoring, you're getting people into a good spot so that we can continue to see that growth. But, growth comes with growing pains. So it can be tough on the team sometimes.
It is. And I stole this from somebody, I don't remember who, but they would always say, we want to scale without sucking, right? And so I know there is a healthy balance, right? You got to, in the agency business, you could turn around, we could wake up tomorrow and our biggest client just out of nowhere says they're done, right? So there is this continuation of always moving forward and trying to keep growing and keep scaling. And so, yes, that does make it a little bit hard of a challenge. And we've also worked so hard on the culture. And I think that's why the culture is so amazing now, because we do all really hire for culture. So tell me a little bit, what do you think really led? I mean, you're so successful to be, again, we're the largest media only agency in Pittsburgh. A lot of the larger agencies that are bigger than us focus on all parts of advertising agencies. Tell me, how'd you get to be so successful in your career? What have you learned? What have you realized about yourself maybe that helped you become more successful?
Yeah, I love this question, but I have a strong drive and passion for succeeding. I think that's to get to certain levels in companies, you really need to just have that passion for success. And that's not just for yourself, for your team and for the people around you. I don't know if it's just my personality type or what, but I'm big on just, I don't settle for just good enough. I always want to make sure that we're going that extra step, that we're going above and beyond. And I've kind of done that with every stage of my career. I'm always looking forward to what's coming next and how I can continue to grow, because getting complacent in your role can lead to maybe not enjoying it as much, or not, seeing that growth path. So I just love to see others succeed. And I know that if I want to succeed, I need my team behind me to also be successful. So making sure that they're in a good spot will help me in the long run.
Hey, I don't know if I made this quote up, but if you're not growing, you're not going. How about that?
I love it.
You might need to look that up. Do you prefer, I mean, you've worked in a fully remote environment now for almost 3 years. And just to our listeners, we at Hoffmann Murtaugh for 18 years have been remote. We were ahead of that curve. We always knew that we were better and more efficient being working from home. So you've worked in a full-time office, you've worked now in a remote area. Tell me, what do you like best?
Yeah, I mean, my last job was 100% in person. So the biggest thing that I disliked about that was just that long drive that I had to make to the office every day. It took away from family time. It took away from time where I could be working on things and not just sitting in my car. I do miss having face-to-face interactions with people, but I feel like at Hoffmann Murtaugh, we do a great job of making each other feel like we're in an office. We get on video calls really often, and we still get to really, see everybody. I may not be, able to walk over to your desk, but I can actually, on Teams, be able to reach out to somebody and just it's like picking up the phone and just calling them and having a few minutes with them. It's the same thing as like popping over to somebody's cubicle and saying, hey, do you have a minute? I need to talk. So we do a really good job of making sure we still have that person-to-person interaction. So you really don't even realize that you're not seeing people face-to-face. Like when we get together for group gatherings, it never feels weird. It's always like, oh, hey, how's it going? Because you feel like you're talking to them all the time. It's as if you're seeing them on a daily basis. So just being able to take that environment and make it feel like you're still in person is, I think, has been great for our company overall.
Which is crazy to me in a way, because like I'm the one who forces the camera all the time. Like nobody ever wants to be on camera for our own internal meetings. But for me, it's like, that's where we're having those interactions. That's where we're seeing each other. And what was interesting before COVID, we were never on the camera, right? We also went down and saw each other more, right? We went down to our office. We had more internal meetings before COVID. And so COVID is, really the whole thing, it opening it up with the cameras on has made that more of a, I think, connection with everybody. So tell me a little bit about, how do you break into this space? There's so many pieces and parts to an advertising agency. Obviously, for those who might not know, we specialize in the media part. So like the paid earned, shared owned pieces of media. But if you want to break into the media space, or maybe even just a digital agency, or even work on the client side, tell me a little bit about how you think is the best way to break in.
I think keeping up with trends is very important. So, everyone thinks social media. I feel like a lot of the people we interview, they all have this, they think digital media and they think social media. There's so many other aspects to it. So just keeping up to date on all the trends is very important. But then taking as many courses as you can. Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, there's so many free courses.
They're all free. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So just taking as many of those courses as you can will really give you a one-up on other people that are interviewing. You're going to have people coming right out of college where all they have is coursework. If you can take the opportunity to do some internships as well, that's really going to help you because it gives you experience where experience may not have existed. Coursework's great and it's great in theory, but that hands-on experience is really going to give you the edge over your competition to be able to say, well, I may not have gotten paid for this, or I may have gotten paid a very small amount for it, but I have a ton of experience that I'm coming into right out of college, and I'm actually going to be able to get a job very quickly because of it.
Yeah, we pay our interns. So that is a benefit to them, but really just coming in here and getting to see all the different things that are available. I think you're right on to say that sometimes right out of college, a lot of the people that apply for our jobs are so content heavy, creative
Mhm.
content heavy in the social media space. And I think they're just not even realizing all the different things that are out there. So what do you think somebody should have on their resume? I know we talked a little bit about maybe doing some of those internships. I
Yeah.
did have, Gina on one of our podcasts, and she talked about how she reached out to me and she didn't really have those internship things on her resume. So I suggested to her to just, maybe work for somebody for free, because I think at her level, she just graduated college. It's a little bit harder to get a paid something, or other like
Yeah.
that. But tell me a little bit about, what you should have on your resume that might make you stand out from others, because we have a job up right now. We get like 100 resumes. It's really hard to keep track and try to stand out.
It is, and I think to your point on those resumes, it's so hard to weed out who may be a good fit and who may not be just based off of the resume itself. But those, internships or coursework or any of those skills that we're looking for, those are kind of the key things we look for when we're looking for a somebody that might be good to move into the first round of interviews. Having your resume stand out is definitely step one, because once you get into the interview phase, that's when it becomes even more important to make sure that you're standing out. But having those skills and that coursework, and to your point, even if you didn't get the opportunity to do some of those internships, reaching out, LinkedIn is a great resource.
Really
You
great.
can see what people's job titles are. You can reach out to people and just say, is there any kind of opportunity for me to do even if it's not paid, internship, to be able to get your resume built up to the level it needs to be at, so that you stand out from your competition.
Yeah, and I think you know, the resume is one piece. I think a challenge we're dealing with right now, I don't know if others are, is we're getting either overqualified candidates or we're getting underqualified candidates. And I'm not really sure how to really, find the candidate, but that's just something we've been experienced. So I think it's really important, if maybe you're underqualified, to possibly get out there and get a little bit more extra experience as you're interviewing. So
Right.
what what changes do you see in the media space in the next 5 years? I know that we're always working on 5 years ahead, which even though maybe all of our clients are not, really ready to go there, but tell me I mean, you can talk about some of the things we're working on, but what are you seeing happening?
Yeah, I mean, besides the fact that like digital media in general is ever changing, the one thing that we've been talking to our clients a lot lately is just the changing digital landscape overall. So data privacy is becoming more and more important, and people are becoming more aware of the ways marketers are reaching them. They're also being given the opportunity to opt in and out of targeting and tracking. So it has become a really big focus for companies like Google and Facebook to figure out new ways to reach people. So it's really high on our radar, and just making sure that our clients are ahead of the game when they can be, and staying up to date, and we're keeping them up to date. So it's just keeping our foot on that gas pedal to be able to say, Google's changing in 2023, and we're ready for it. We know exactly what's going to be happening, and our clients are in a really good spot. We're in a really good spot. You're not even going to feel the effect of when this shift happens. So keeping up to date on that, I think that's going to be a big thing for the next 5 years. And how we target, we're still going to be able to target people. I don't have any concerns that like we're not going to be able to market to people. It's just how we reach them is going to be different. And so making sure that we're aware of all those different ways, and making sure that our clients are in a really good spot to be able to do that moving forward.
Yeah, and I think, one of the times, I mean, we're finding, we're kind of scaring our clients. We're not trying to, but I think it's important that I might say it 10 times and you've heard it the 12th time. Like that's the first time you're hearing it. And so we really are trying to kind of get our clients at least to open up the discussion about their first party data. And I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to be the biggest change. And then return on investment is going to be just everything. And we have been spending, 2 years getting into that. And the more
Yeah.
our clients will allow us to connect their data to what we're doing in our media space is going to showcase all of those things. And so if there's any clients out there, or not our clients, but just people that maybe are listening that do marketing, they really need to get more transparent with their data with their partners. So
Definitely.
you have 3 daughters. I know they're really into sports. How do you maintain a good, work-life balance, especially having such a big role here?
Yeah, I mean, working from home can be tough. It's hard to separate work from life sometimes. And one of the things that I would give as a advice is really to just kind of set those boundaries and stick to them. So when you're done for the day, make sure you are closing your computer, and having that dedicated workspace really helps. So I always encourage people not to just be sitting at your kitchen table or in the midst of everything else going on, because one, it's very hard to stay focused, but two, it's hard to separate. So if you have your computer just sitting on your kitchen table, you're going to be more likely to just be bouncing in and out all day long. And that really doesn't work for a lot of people. So having that dedicated workspace will help you to be able to shut off when you're ready to shut off. And then know what the difference between important and urgent matters after work hours are, versus I can read my email, but I don't have to respond to it right now. So I can look at it and say, I can look at this tomorrow. This is not something that I have to worry about right now. Now, there are going to be those instances where something comes through that's urgent and you have to look at it. It is what it is, but those are very few and far between. So being able to just kind of shut off when you're ready to shut off and focus on your family or your personal health, whatever it is that you do after working hours, and having that be your focus, and try not to worry about work when you're not during work hours.
And my advice to a lot of people is, usually presidents and C-suite, I mean, they're firing emails off at midnight, right? And my team for a long time would try to change my behavior. And I think the important lesson is you're never going to change a client's behavior. You're not going to change a C-suite's behavior or a president's behavior. I mean, I've tried really hard to try to change that, but then I forget. And then the thing doesn't get done for 3 days because I have to do it right when it comes. And so I think the important lesson is change yourself. Like you're the one who can say, I'm not going to open my email, because I say to my employees all the time, if I send you an email at 11 o'clock at night and you do not respond, you are never 150% in trouble. Like for me, I'm just trying to get it off my plate so I don't forget. So I think trying to understand how to work with people where they are, and maintaining where you are and what you need to kind of create that healthy work-life balance. So
yeah, and I tell my group the same thing all the time. I'm like, you're going to see me trying to catch up on emails in the evening. That typically I'll even write, don't worry about this till tomorrow, because I don't want somebody to feel like, oh shoot, Katie sent me an email, I have to respond to it, or Shea sent me an email, I have to respond to it. Just know that, like, if I'm sending it, I'll say urgent, or I'll say important, or I'll text you. I have everybody's phone numbers. Like, if it's really important, I'm going to get you other than email. So don't worry about it till then.
And I've had to tell the team members with clients too. Clients, if a client's sending you a midnight email on a Friday, we did onboard a client once, and they were famous for sending emails at midnight on a Friday. My team would ruin their whole weekend over that. And I'm like, why? You really think the client thinks that you're going to respond on Saturday? They don't think that. They're just trying to get it off their plate. So, all right. So tell me about mentors. I mean, I've had a million mentors. I think mentors are so important. I think mentoring is very important. Tell me about any mentors you've had, or, or anybody you're mentoring. Maybe you're too busy right now for mentoring. I know you're mentoring your own team, which is very important. But tell me, and you're raising 3 fantastic daughters. And so, maybe mentoring for you right now is not on the top of your mind, but tell us about some mentors maybe that helped you get here.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say that I've had like people that I would specifically consider to be mentors, but definitely supporters in my life that have helped me get to where I am. I think it starts with my parents. They definitely instilled a strong work ethic into me and my brothers. We all worked through high school and college, and there's never been a time where I really haven't worked. So one of the things that I, instill in my daughters as well, my oldest is 15. She just started working a couple months ago. she wanted stuff. She wants things and you got to work for it. So you're not going to just be handed things. If you want nice things, you're going to have to work for them. So luckily I've had some great bosses in the past that have that helped me to kind of get to where I am. So they put faith in me by giving me positions that I might not have had enough experience to be able to do, but they know what my work ethic was. They know that my potential was there and my ability was there. So they put some faith in me and let me try. And when I didn't fail, it became apparent that I was able to meet the goals and deadlines and be able to take on the challenge of the roles. So that's really helped me to grow in my career and get me to where I am. But, reaching out to people and saying like, take a chance on me. I might not have the experience that you're looking for just yet, but I know I can get there. I know that my drive to succeed and my desire for growth is going to get me there. So I'm lucky that I've had people really take that leap of faith with me and say, okay, yeah, I think you can do this. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, and I think that reminds me how I found you. Great story. We kind of had somebody exiting the company, and I just sat one night and I just pretty much sent out emails on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a great tool. You type in the title and then you can see if you're connected to these people. And we weren't really connected, but I just sent you a message and said, hey, we have this role here. Do you have any interest? And sure enough, I'm so happy I did that because here you are. And I also think that, sometimes bosses can hold you back, and I don't want to be all negative, but, in my life, I've had many bosses that can hold you back too. And I think it goes back to you. It goes back to you and what you want out of your career. And if you're going to let that person hold you back, or do you move? Do you go into another environment where you do have a more supportive boss that just really is not insecure about you being better than them? So,
Right.
so I think it's really important to be able to kind of have the right culture and the right mentors to kind of keep moving you along. So, couple last questions. This, I don't think this has ever happened to you, but hey, maybe it did in the past. Did you ever not meet a deadline, and how did you combat that? What did you learn?
It's like, me, Shea. And I will say, I'll be honest, there's been very few instances where I feel like I've like totally not made a deadline.
I can't even.
And I think, and I honestly, and I'll say the reason why is because if you are given a deadline that's unrealistic, you need to be talking to the person that's given it to you.
Yes.
And so if I'm getting a deadline and, there have been instances where I've had to say, I can't get that to you in a week. I can get that to you in 2 weeks instead. You're being upfront and honest from the get-go about the project. And you're giving checkpoints throughout the project as well. So no one will ever give me a project and hear from me 2 days afterwards where I say, oh, sorry, I'm not going to get this done.
That's so important. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
So I'm not going to, I'm going to keep you up to date throughout the process. So there's never going to be a surprise at the end where it's due today and you're like, where is this? You will have heard from me multiple times throughout to say, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to get it done for you. There are obviously little instances here and there where it's day of and it's something that wasn't, a huge priority. And I know that, but anything that is a priority, I'm making sure that it is being kind of relayed to everybody that here's where I am in the process. And I may need an extra day or two to get this done.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because I try to practice with our whole employees that we wag our own tail, right?
Right.
Clients can be very, last minute, because they have a million things on their plate, right? And so they're just like, oh, geez, I didn't even think about this. Hey, can you get this to me tomorrow? Yeah. And you're so right that you need to push back and say, look, we told you, here's our minimum deadlines. Because if we let everybody do that to us, we are going to miss deadlines and we're going to get things and they're going to be messed up and they're not going to be right. And a right now philosophy over getting it right is never going to work. So, all right. So one last question. Any quotes that you live by or that you love?
I think one, and I will say that my philosophy on quotes will probably change where I am in my life and where I am in my career. But right now, I feel like don't sweat the small stuff. You're going to fight for the important things, but don't let the unimportant ones break you. There's going to be a lot of things out there that maybe seem significant to you early in your career, but the further in and the more experience you get, you're going to think to yourself, all right, that person may not like me, and that's okay. I don't need that person to like me. As long as I'm doing a good job and I'm doing my job well, then that's really all that matters. But this can be really hard for when you're younger to not take feedback or any kind of criticism that you're getting personally. And it's like, you can either take that information and do something with it, or you can sit there and worry about it. And worrying about it to me is sweating the small stuff. You got to make sure that it's important enough for you to be worried about it. And when it comes down to it, if it's not very important, you got to kind of let it go and move on to the next thing and make sure that you're just continuing to be the best you that you can.
Yeah. And I think, as long as if somebody's giving you feedback and it's direct feedback, as long as you can tell that they come from a place of caring, which is a book called Radical Candor, then they're just doing it to help you. And so I get myself into trouble a lot because a lot of times I say things that sting because I'm just giving it pretty out quickly without sugarcoating it. But I'm really just doing it to help you grow and continue. So I think that's a great quote. So thank you, Katie, so much. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into the HMDL podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to follow us on all of our social channels at Hoffmann Murtaugh. I'm Shea Murtaugh, and we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day.